We are good. Yeah, I had to make sure there was a rovable mic because, you know, Aspie, ADD, I can't sit still. This morning when we were doing the little keynotes, we had about this much. You have no idea the torture to stay in one spot for 10 minutes. It was bad. So, okay, that all being said, I know that you have lots of choices of where you can be today, and so I thank you for coming to spend an hour with me talking Asper Kids. Now, I want to start off by saying Asper Kids is simply a word that I, very casually came up with. My first child of the three to be diagnosed was my daughter. She's now 11. She was 6 going 7 at the time. And at that point, I used the phrase Asper Girls from Rudy Simone's book, who is, these are the things, by the way, if anything ever sounds, because the Aspies, we're not sure how it sounds on your end, right? At all, like, braggadocious. I promise it's not. It's stupefaction. That is what you're hearing, okay? Utter stupefaction. Because Rudy Simone is now a personal friend, and that just blows my mind. But when the second one, my second child, my son, was diagnosed, we couldn't say Asper Girls anymore. We had to make a gender-neutral term, and Asper Kids became the vernacular around our home. And it was simply my way of saying, you're a little different. Cool. And also you're a kid. Cool. And that's it. And so you're going to hear me use the word, which has now become a international multimedia social education company. So go to asperkids.com, because I promise it's Disney Babble, one of top 30 sites in the world to know, as well as the same for the Facebook page, which is Asper Kids, and PhD Special Ed Online, top 100 sites in the world, and edX Autism #1 site. So I promise you that not only do other people say it's pretty dang cool, there's a lot of stuff on there that's free, because the reality is my life BC before children was that I was a social worker and a teacher. So I know what it's like to try to save the world for $0. And so I promise you that I want you to get the most bang for your lack of buck as well. Because this is what I live and this is what I do. I didn't plan to have a career in working on the spectrum. I mean, for Pete's sakes, 3.5 years ago, I had no idea that that's what I was. Although I always knew something was different. I wasn't sure what. And what a great relief to find out what the actual answer was. But what I really started off to do was to make life a little bit more fabulous for my own kids. Because I guess my philosophy is, when I die, I'm really hoping that's not anytime soon, but I want to be the one who slides into home base at heaven and goes, yes, that was fun, right? And that's what I want for all of our kids. All of them. And yet, I can very easily remember being a child, and I was an only child. So the explanation given to my parents for the fact that I sounded like I was 25 when I was 5 was simply this. 1, she's too smart for her own good, which I always find interesting, because I think, if I were a boy, would they have said that? I don't know, just asking. And secondly, what the heck does that even really mean? Okay? You can't be too smart for your own good. What you can be is there are some seats up here. There are some seats, I promise. Don't worry, at ASA we had people, we just said fire marshal, because then we had people hanging out, sitting crisscross applesauce. You're good. So, and there's seats up here too if you want. I promise I won't call on you just because I made you be in the front row, but maybe I will. Okay, so that all being said, my mom used to take me to the town pool, and she used to say, she was a stay-at-home mom, and not that I can in any way relate to this feeling, okay, go play, go play. What she essentially meant was, I want to talk to other grown-ups, please right now, go away. But I had no idea how to just go play. Now, if you know about autism and you know about Asperger's, the reality is that that's part of the diagnosis. If that you put a kid on the spectrum in a room full of toys or really cool things, and they go, or they pick the same thing over and over and over again because they know what to do with that, right? Well, it's the same for adults. Give us too many choices and we're lost. We're lost. So she would tell me to go play, and I didn't have the vaguest clue how to go play. And I saw the exact same thing happening to my kids, to the kids that I taught, to the kids I had worked with. And just like the beginning of what became the first Asperger's book, I just sort of started doing what made sense to me. And then, anybody else ever have this experience? Parents on the spectrum? Or, parents with kids on the spectrum? The constant looking behind you, waiting for someone to tell you that you're doing it all wrong. Constantly. All the time. I mean, every mother kind of gets that. Like, from the second you're pregnant, you're doing everything wrong, right? You should be eating that, not this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, then it's extrapolate to life. Except for it didn't happen. And I almost didn't trust that. It was, the experts saying, well, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. Because I'm mind blind. I don't know what it is that I know that you don't know. People used to say to me, what's it like to be an only child? And I'd say, I don't know. What's it like to have brothers and sisters? Right? It's my normal. And one of the things you're going to hear me say over and over, normal and typical are not synonyms. Yeah, you can write it down. It's okay. So the same thing sort of happened, is that I realized that I was coming up with play, that even from the time my kids were little, I did have folks saying, well, are you trying to turn them into, baby Einsteins or this, that, and the other thing? Why do you have to structure all their play all the time? And I thought, I don't. It's just that if I don't structure all their play, they're going to sit there and possibly tear one another's eyes out, or never, ever, ever, ever leave me to just, go to the bathroom in peace, right? That's all I'm looking for. I mean, today I was talking to a woman, I was sitting in the ladies' room for quite a while, because what was I doing? I was answering Facebook questions in the stall, because I don't know now, I just multitask that way. That's what we do. And so I wanted to give these little things that I guess those of us on the spectrum just do innately. I wanted to give them to you and say, guess what? It's not that hard. And we can do it with rubber bands and marbles and paint chips and Legos, because I feel like we all buy a lot of special stuff. And that special stuff costs a lot of money. And you don't necessarily have it in your house. And yes, I have 4,000 pins on my Pinterest board. Okay, fine. I might have a problem there. But the point is, at some point you start to glaze over, and you're not going to go get all that. So we have Pinterest fails up and down, right? Because of exactly that. So what I wanted was, I wanted to show you, whether you're a teacher or whether you're a parent or whether you're a therapist, that there's a seat if you want, there's right over here. The most basic things can have the most profound impact. Because, well, you're not trying to teach aliens. You're simply trying to play with kids of all ages. And shocker, we're actually just people too. So, I'd like to introduce you right now to, a weird thing on top of the screen that doesn't let us see it all, but that's okay. It says, welcome to all the things that you do badly, how and why you should change them, or no one will ever like you. Thank you for showing up for my lecture. Ma'am, there's a seat right there, and there's one up here too. So now we have two ma'ams. There's a seat right there, and one up here. Okay, now, who wants to go to that lecture? No? Yeah, me neither. Okay. That's social skills class, guys. That's what social skills class sounds like. You can call it buddy group or whatever the heck you want, but that's what it is. Okay, how about this? Let's learn all about, today, medieval Lithuanian grasses and the way they affected the bovine population and economy of Britannia. Not so much. No. Somebody said yes to that one? Because I got nothing on Lithuanian grasses, but I could go ad nauseum to tutor stuff. But anyway, or, last but not least, perhaps, quarks and the magical pieces thereof within dark matter, and how that will relate to the way you get along with everyone, everywhere, for all times. Again, not so much. Why? And really, who cares and what the heck is she talking about? She's talking about this. Approach is everything. I don't know why adults seem to forget. Do you like to be bored? I would be very bored listening to an entire lecture on Lithuanian grasses. Why do we think that kids are different? Really? Why do you not remember being a kid and hearing an adult use language that you're like, oh, Mom, seriously, please don't say that. Like, don't even say going out with or necking or whatever. Like, what are you doing to my life right now, okay? The reality is, most adults seem to have forgotten what it is to be a child. Any child. Nobody likes to be bored. When you're trying to present something, whether it be social skills, how to play, how to learn, and it's boring, I don't care if you say, look at how great this is going to be, and you sound like, Pollyanna. They're not buying it. If kids, including spectrum kids, can't see anything else, they can see fake fast. And if you're going to lose them in boredom, it's just as bad. I learned everything I needed to know about how to teach, how to reach these kids from Apollo 13, aka the Geocorona. Now, if you may have forgotten from some point in your life what the Geocorona might be, it's that lovely little blanket that surrounds the Earth and lovely little cushion, keeps us safe from all the bad stuff out there. However, if you were the folks on Apollo 13, and everybody knows Apollo 13, right? Like, everything that could go wrong, or it's going on out there. They were supposed to go to the moon. Things are disasters. People have UTIs. I mean, really, that could be the worst in my world. But they're trying to get home, and after everything they've survived, that Geocorona is going to be what makes it or breaks it, because just like skipping rocks, yeah? If they were really subtle, if they came in at too obtuse an angle, they were going to bounce off into space, never to be heard from again. If they were too sharp about the way they got back, they would have plunked, not skipped, they would have exploded, and everyone would have died. It would have all been for naught. They had to come in at the perfect angle, not too sharp, acute, think of a cut, all the things that you do badly, not too subtle and boring and abstract, because that isn't going to reach anybody. You have to get in at just that balance between the two, or else they're going to push you away. Everything that you want to gift will be gone, or quite frankly, it's all going to explode in your face. Just think Tom Hanks. So, here's the thing. The first thing I want to tell you, whether it's about teaching a social skill, teaching how to brush your hair, teaching algebra, teaching how to sweep a floor, I don't care. The most arrogant thing any one of us can do is assume at any point, this whole mind blindness thing, I'm sorry, I have to, little divergence. Mind blindness means, right, that I don't know what you don't know that I know, and I have to think about what you're thinking because it doesn't just come naturally, yeah? Neurotypical folks, I gotta tell you, the most mind-blind people I've ever met in my life are neurotypicals. And that, forgive me, is because of a profound level of arrogance. Not mean, intentional, cruel arrogance, but once again in the presumption that normal and typical are synonyms, and normal and typical are not synonyms. When we assume, boy, does anyone know that little adage on the boy? Yeah, right, okay. We do make a donkey out of everyone involved. And why? Here's why. It's real simple. I'll tell you a very, very quick story. My littlest guy, he's now 5. When he was 3, he was in class. He was snack guy that day. Big honor. He had chosen to bring cheese and crackers. And when he came home from school, he said, "Mommy, I'm really hungry. Can I have some cheese and crackers?" And I said, "Gavin, didn't you have any cheese and crackers?" And he said, "Well, no, not really, because my teacher decided I was done." "Well, why did she do that?" It's a Montessori school. They can only have 2 kids at the snack table at a time, right? And she had come over to him and said, "Gavin, you're playing with your food. Stop playing with your food, please, and eat." Now, he's thinking, I'm not playing with my food. I'm not making them into, like, trucks or whatever, because hello, literal, figurative language. But beyond that, the next thing she did was she left. She came back, and he was still nibbling very slowly the corners off of his Triscuit crackers. So she said, "Okay, you're done, thank you. You've showed me with your choices that you're done, so you need to clean up and move on." Now, here's the difference. I said to him, "Gavin, why were you nibbling the corners of your crackers?" I tell you right now that I literally did a talk this year in Ohio where a woman came back the next morning after hearing me the night before, came back. It was going to be the same talk. She got up in front of the entire conference and she said, for the first time in her life, her child went to school that day without a meltdown because she did this. I said, "Why?" I didn't assume that I knew. You know what he said? 3-year-old? Because he had realized that if he nibbled the corners off of the squares, he could turn them into octagons. He was doing geometry at the snack table. Now, I didn't know that. I wouldn't expect her to know that. I do expect every one of us to not be so arrogant as to not simply say, "Why?" You might think you know, but just take the time to say why. Because the truth is that play, when I say children of all ages, yeah, that includes us. We learn everything we need to through play. For us, play could be ladies' night out. It could be poker with the guys. It doesn't matter. You're still learning. Children learn what they need to, that's right, what they need to through play. But if you're uncomfortable in the play, you're not going to learn a stinking thing. Now here is something kind of that threw me. I did not know there were such things as employment psychologists. There are. And what they tell you, or us, is that these skills right here, I don't care what your GPA is, I don't care what your IQ is, whether that's fantastic or whether other people would say, "Yeah." I don't care. These are the skills that keep us employed. Not just employed gainfully, but also wonderfully, energetically, satisfyingly employed. So that at the end of our days, we feel we've done something worthwhile. Unfortunately, these are also some of the skills that are the most challenging innately for those of us on the spectrum. Now, challenging does not mean, impossible. I tell my kids all the time, so it's hard, huh? Guess what? We can do hard things. You can do hard things. Don't ever say, "I can't." No, you can tell me, "I need some assistance. I need some help." Don't tell me you can't. But the problem is, sometimes play looks a little different. Sometimes the environment that's going to make us shine and grow into these skills is just a bit different. I'd like to introduce you to Al, the aloe plant. That's Al. A couple years ago, I thought I had sufficiently well, elevated my, black thumb, maybe brown thumb, to something somewhat more resembling chartreuse, at least, if not green. My mom was going on a trip to China, and she said, while I'm gone, what I'd like to ask you to do is to take care of Al, the aloe plant. And I thought, yes, I can. And I was so proud. So, of course, being an Aspie, I researched and had, discovered what it was that I was going to need to do to take care of Al, the aloe plant. And I read, and I had it down. I brought Al to my house. I had him in the perfect sunshiny spot. I'm thinking, it's like Arizona for you, Al. All is good. Don't you know, within like 2 stinking days, Al is dying. I mean, fast, before my eyes. And I'm thinking, come on here. I'm an intelligent human being, and I'm killing the plant already. Here's what happened. I went back and I reread. No, aloe plants do not need direct light. They need bright light, but those are not the same thing. I was killing Al because so close, but so far. You know the adage, bloom where you're planted? Yeah, but if you're planted in a place, in an environment, in a style that is literally lethal to your spirit, good luck to ya. So I moved Al to a sunny room, but not where he was sitting directly in the path of the bright light. And guess what? Al is still alive. Thank you very much. We all need just a little bit of tweaking to make it work for us. Because, like I told you, my mom, when she would take me to the pool and say, just go play, you know what I would do after lingering for a while? I would take a book and I'd go hide in the woods. What was I supposed to do? Go down to the water and jump in where everybody was splashing everybody, and that terrified me, and I didn't know who they were. And okay, I'll do that, and that's great, And or with this fabulous tanny complexion that I have, just sunbathe. Oh, you're right. So I would go off and I'd hide in the woods with a book because I had no idea how to play. And what so very many wonderfully meaning educators who see recess or free time as, recess and free time for them too, and I'm saying that as a former teacher, or parents who, I get that she wanted a break, and there's nothing wrong with that, but play dates for us, for my kids, were the most organized, structured activities. They weren't just, go upstairs and play. Why? Because for some kids like mine, kids like I was, maybe kids like yours, regardless of what you think their skill sets are, just go play is the hardest direction we'll hear all day. That's not our personality. We're not being difficult. We're not trying to be. It's simply our neurology. You can tell me if you take out my contact lenses, Jenny, look at me. I'm right here. See my sign? And I'll go, is there a human being in here? I can't see past here. Shall I feel insecure about my oddly functioning retinas? I don't think so. It's just the way I work. Okay? Spectrum kids, we do see the world, and this is different. Please, this is like a super important thing. A lot of times it seems like we're selfish. Selfish. Same for adults. We are not selfish. We are self-referenced. Because that is, for someone who is mind blind and can't perceive what you have, it is all we have to go on. Every time I discuss 9/11, I lost 2 friends, one in each of the towers. I always bring that up. My husband said to me once, it sounds like you're making it about you. And I thought, dang, dude, you're an Aspie. Don't you get this? No. What I was trying to say was, that's how I relate to the loss of humanity. They're not numbers, they're these people. What about you? Self-referenced is not self-centered or selfish. We see the world as me and everyone else. Typical kids see the world as all of us together. That's important for play. We can't do it. We feel that our ideas, our wants, our beliefs, they're universal. They're obvious. And we don't mean to be arrogant that we assume that they are that way. But again, if we can't perceive that they're different, how the heck are we supposed to know that they're different? And that's when we end up being called, I don't know, I might have ever been called bossy and a know-it-all. But hey, and just FYI, Tina Fey says that you're not cool until someone calls you bossy pants. So there you go. But the rest of typical kids say, I know that everybody else thinks differently, and that's okay. We might disagree, but yeah, I get that idea. We don't. That means you have to teach it. You have to explicitly teach it. But just telling us that, anybody ever tell a kid, hey, that's hot, don't touch it? How well does that work? Anybody in here ever have, like, your parents tell you, like, ooh, don't go to a party if this is happening? You're like, okay, thanks. Right? We have to learn for ourselves in reality, right? Okay, so here's the thing, though. This is really hard. You've got to we have to learn the most abstract concepts through concrete experiences. Isn't that fun? Flashy, flashy. It's telling you, important idea now. That's what it's doing. I programmed it. My brain is that strong. Do it again sometime soon. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Here's the thing. We have to constantly walk around in a world where what we are seeing and perceiving and understand and feeling is apparently wrong. That's really challenging. Once you even get past the ego-ish of that, that's just really challenging and tiring. So, got to get a little fun in the way you teach it. Like, for instance, optical illusions. We're not supposed to plug anything, and I'm not plugging. I'm telling you because there's no way I can give you all of the ideas in one talk. The book that I wrote, The Secret Book of Social Rules, that's the one that just won the Outstanding Book of the Year award, and this tells you mind blindness. When I started writing that book, it says tweens and teens, yeah, whatever, at least a third of the readers are adults. Guess why? Because I wrote it for myself like 3 years ago. I was in a therapist session, and she said something, and I started writing it down. She said, what you doing? I said, I'm writing it down. That was a social rule. You don't even know. We're supposed to know these things. You don't tell us. And she said, well, could you make that into, the first book was already in publication, hadn't come out yet. Do you think you can make that into another book? And I said, why? Do you think other people would need to know it? Apparently they would. So, but here's the thing. The last book that's out there, which is Game Plan, that's what this is based on. Because you have to have a game plan. A plan for play. And there's a whole section on basically what I'm giving you snippets of. This. We have to constantly know. Look at those lines. Now, you may know this already, but if you don't, the long diagonal lines are perfectly parallel. But if you look at them casually, do they look parallel? No. There's all sorts of little hashy distractions happening, right? We have to constantly consider the reality of perspectives that we can't see or even understand. One of the best ways to start talking about that is by using optical illusions. Plus, the science geeks in us go, whoa, that's super cool. Okay, and that's what we're trying to appeal to. Remember, it's about appealing to something that someone is interested in and the way we learn. Think Al. This is maybe bright light instead of direct light. Okay, doesn't matter. We're going to thrive and bloom. It's not natural, but it is doable. For instance, everything you do, everything, I don't care what you're teaching, needs to start off being concrete. Concrete meaning experiential, touching it, and sensory-based. You heard shock on the trampoline? I don't know how many people here have trampolines at their houses. Oh, really? Because that's it. Like, raise your hands. Like, because I had like 2. Okay, good. And OTs and anybody else. Did you know you can write on a trampoline in chalk? Especially if it's outside, rain comes along, takes it away. Okay? But you want to talk about feedback and sensory experience? That's how my littlest guy learned to write his name in cursive by big old chalk letters, and then he got to bounce on each letter when I'd say, fine, because big trick also, don't teach letter names until you're spelling something. His name is not Hi, Gavin. His name is Gavin. Okay? Okay, bounce on the V. Right? Okay, you know? That's awesome. It's way more fun. Same thing on the bottom. He was going through sensory bins of rice. And any OT in here knows that that's visual closure. He not only had to find and discern which objects had the N at the end of his name, a napkin, a necklace, a napkin ring, a needle, and then place them precisely on and within the shapes. Visual processing, I can't tell you how many kids are diagnosed with reading disorders that do not have reading disorders. They have visual processing issues. Huge. Go to Eyes Wide Shut on Asper Kids. I'm just trying to throw it. It's a blog. So there you go. Okay? But guess what? You can do the same thing with older kids, and you'll see why. Every single one of these concepts can be extrapolated for any person of any age with any ability set. Got it? And that includes typical kids. You know, the ones not lucky enough to be on the spectrum. So, okay, what this says under the little up there is it says maintain attention through movement, interest, and fun. Okay? You'll see one of the books that's out there is the Asper Kids book of not your average coloring book. You know why I made it? Because my kids hated to color. So of course I made a coloring book. Here's why. Somebody told my daughter, you're a bad colorer. And she was 4. She wouldn't do it again. I don't care if our kids don't want to be the next artists or whatever. Don't do it because someone told you you can't. But I did notice once she found one of her first passions, which was Greek mythology, because, you know, most 6- and 7-year-olds are teaching themselves Greek, obviously, that if I drew, that's when I drew. I'm not an artist, but it worked well enough for her. If I drew Athena, because that's her favorite, and made sure to write Athena in Greek correctly, you know, and have Zeus, lo and behold, wouldn't she color it? And so we had kids around the world on the spectrum send in their own pictures, and now there's an entire book of the most common special interests, and the kids will actually color them. And not only are they getting the processing, they're playing by knowing that their special interests relate to other kids around the world, and they feel connected. And it rocks. Or, again, concrete. Yes, for Pete's sakes, use their special interests. That seems like, I don't know, the most basic thing, because once again, think medieval Lithuanian grasses. If that's not interesting, let's not go there, right? Those are Duplo blocks up there. You know what that is? Because I'm sure many of you remember the law of successive squares, right? Don't you? Yes, side plus 1 squared equals side squared plus 2 times the side plus 1. We all remember that? No, we don't remember that. Of course you don't remember that. If everyone's going, yeah, no, I don't. Why? Because it was a weird formula that you memorized from a book and it made diddly squat of information. It didn't even matter, right? But guess what? That's what it means. If you build squares out of Legos, you can find out that you can get from, 16 to 25 to 36. There is actually a pattern. We like patterns a lot. And you can learn complicated algebraic formulas with Duplos. Or get them outside. That's a 100 board I drew in my driveway. Get them jumping, literally. It is a massive 100 board. It's just chalk. You want to subtract? Subtract. You want to multiply? That's just skip counting. Jump, jump, jump. You want to jump backwards by tens? You're counting backwards. There's no reason that it shouldn't be fun, because our fun is a little different. It may seem more cerebral. So what? Who said your version of fun is what fun should be across the board? This is super important. When I taught middle school, I taught writing. And I think that's sort of interesting because, so for me, academics were easy. And I'm a writer, so one would think that would be, you know, sort of my go-to. You know what? Because I was not going to be, you know, happy with anything less than perfect in high school or any other time. But here's the problem. I kept getting these essays back from my honors English teacher, and she would say to me, "You're making the reader do too much of the work." I had no idea what the heck she was talking about. I was pulling out great quotes. What was the big deal? Big deal was when you're mind blind, we assume that our assumptions, our takeaways from every day, from what the kid on the playground said, from what you said, from what Chaucer says, is what everybody would get out of it. You have to tell us what to tell you. This is a big one. Write it down. That being said, it's all out there. But, if I were to say to you, okay, if I held up a picture and I said, what's in this picture? And you said, a house and a bike and a tree. Or if I said, okay, what's the subject? It's a house. Are there people around it? Oh, yeah, there's a little girl by the house. When and time of day? Oh, well, the sun's up, so I guess it's daytime. And number, well, no, there's just one little girl and one little house and one bike. Color, oh, she's wearing a blue dress, it's a red bike, and it's a yellow house. Okay, so just that. Now, instead of there's a house and a tree and a bike, now we have a little girl who's standing in the middle of the daytime by her house with her, I don't even remember what color bike it was, but it doesn't matter. The point being, you've got a much clearer picture. My daughter was telling me about a spelling bee that happened recently, and how odd it was that the girl who had won the spelling bee, who's a good friend of hers, her brother had also won. And I'm thinking, didn't her brother graduate like 2 years ago? How did that happen? Well, yeah, no, but I was talking about the spelling bee from 2 years ago. Hello? Let's see, do we see the when? Every day, I can't tell you the amount of miscommunications that happen between spouses, coworkers, teachers and kids, peers, because we're simply not telling enough of what is in our mind. We're not, the expression's called making you see what we see, and I'm going to rush through so I can show you the cool way to teach us this kind of thing. Here's a really basic and easy way. The idea is simply this. You start off with something simple as index cards. Those are color-coded, obviously, and I don't care what you're trying to teach, right? Because even if you're talking about directions, so say you're trying to teach a basic life skill like this is how to keep your kitchen, you need for them to be able to reflect it back and make sure that they've learned it. Or a play skill, it doesn't matter. You can make this fun. This can be about Harry Potter or Minecraft or American Girl. I do not care. It doesn't matter. It still works. Writing in those colors, size, shape, pattern, position. Show them a picture from Star Wars. Show them a picture of, Pokemon. I don't care. And have them describe using those words. Do it enough times that eventually you're going to be able to take away the words and simply have the color coding cards. Same thing. They're getting the idea. They're getting the idea. And eventually they're giving you a much better description of what it was that happened at the lunch table that caused trouble. Because when you go into that teacher, anybody else ever go into the teacher and be like, this is what happened, and you have maybe a quarter of the story, and then you walk out going, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And we haven't done a good job advocating, nor is the teacher doing a good job understanding necessarily what's going on, because none of us are getting the full story. We're getting bits and pieces. This is how to make it clearer and make it fun, because use a topic that matters. You want art. Right here. Here you go. You want to talk about the idea that perception, that the way each one of us understands something is different. Again, when you're self-referenced, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But you could show it this way. Vanishing points, just a simple technique in art. Those are literally just basic, use stencils. Do it outside if you want big. Have them make basic polygrams. Draw straight lines in. What happens when you shade it? It looks as if they are vanishing. Are they? No. The kids know they're not. Right? That hand, that's one of the coolest things. You just lay your hand down. You trace it. The directions are in there, but you trace it with pencil, and when you get to your actual hand, you just go whoop, and then keep going. Okay? And then what you do is you erase the outline of your hand. And then you take a marker and go over those pencil lines. And then color them in. You have a three-dimensional looking cool hand thing. Right? Oh, and could you then talk about dimensions and what are multiple dimensions? And could you get into like geometry, and could you get into physics and space and all that sort of cool stuff? Sure. Or could you get into art? Yeah. But here's what you're learning, that we don't have to get it all, because one of the biggest things going against us is the concept that we have to get it right all the time, and that we hate ourselves when we don't. Why? Because we feel like we're supposed to. There is one perception. And why didn't we understand it? It is such a relief to realize, no, each one of us, because of our location and our experiences and all of those things, that we are bringing different things to the table, and it's okay. Okay, super fast. I need to have a volunteer. So I need 2 volunteers really fast. Go, run, yes, come. Okay, one more person. You rock. Benjamin, you can come? Yes. Benjamin, come on up. Sorry, kid wins. Okay, here we go. Now, expect this will be a little bit, as my daughter says, confuzzling. Okay? So Benjamin, come here, right, if you would, and you're going to face this wall. Perfect. Beth. Hello, Beth. How are you? Hi. All right, turn around. Now, everybody's going to watch them. Ready? Here we go. We have 2 sets of the same object. This exercise is called Make Me See What You See. Okay. They are both going to get a squishy gold brain. They are going to get a tomato ketchup-y thing, a Grey Poupon mustard, a straw, a bottle cap, and a rubber band. Okay? Now, your one direction, Benjamin, is that once I give these items to you, you may not turn around. Okay? Expect to be confuzzled. That means, like I said, confused. It's going to be a little tricky. That's okay. That's actually kind of the point, so it's okay. All right, now, ready? I did this with my 2 children, as you can see, with a bunch of random Lego things, because why the heck not? Here's what we're doing, all right? Miss, you have precisely 30 seconds-ish to make something interesting, an arrangement out of those items. Go. And it doesn't have to be, logical. Everybody watching here, everyone, pressure, stare. The idea, again, what I'm reinforcing to you, is that the most profound mind blindness comes not from us, but often from you. So we all could do a little bit better working on helping one another to see what the other is seeing. And also this becomes a nice little code that you can use in public, and it doesn't embarrass anyone. Not that anyone's children ever get embarrassed when you're trying to correct them. So, all right, now, are you ready? We're going to spend only 1 minute. I would like you to describe, you're good, Benjamin. I would like you to describe, okay, ready? Right? All right, Beth is going to describe to Benjamin how he should arrange those same items so that they will end up looking, right, looking like yours, okay? So, Benjamin, you're just going to listen to her directions, and you're not going to repeat it, and you're not going to ask questions, and it's okay for it to not look right, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, take the big, squishy, gold-looking soft thing and put it in your hand. And then I want you to take the long, skinny, white, tube-like thing.
You can say straw. It's okay.
Oh, okay, sorry. And put it at the towards your fingers. And then take the purple package and the red package and put them on top of the gold squishy brain. And then take the stretchy rubber band and wrap it around them. So, and then top it off with the white circle.
Okay, good. All right, both of you turn towards the front. Really good listening. Now, did anybody notice Beth never told him when she said your fingers? She didn't say which hand. She didn't say whether it should be horizontal or vertical. She didn't happen to mention what part of the brain, whether it was the bottom or the top, should be facing upwards, or which of those 2 packets should be on top of the other. And she didn't mention whether or not he should be holding it so that the rubber band was going across or so horizontal or vertical, right? Neurotypical one. You rock. You guys put them on over there on the table if you would. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, yes, applause, applause. If that doesn't show you how much you're assuming that we understand, right, that you're thinking. Now imagine a brain where our experience is already assumed. She knows that, Benjamin might not see what she sees, and yet. Now try talking about something that's emotionally difficult or confusing. It's paralyzingly difficult. That's why you got to tell us what to tell you, and you got to practice like this. Okay? And you got to remember that even those sensory experiences, you can make it really sophisticated. When I say see-through eggshells, permeability. Anybody remember this one? Right? Okay, permeability, how much we let things in or not. Here, you want to talk about the idea that perhaps somebody in your family is not exactly listening to the advice or gifts that are being given to them? Never happens. Well, okay, here's a question. When you hold and I did this with my kids, hold aluminum foil and you pour water on it. Does it go through? No. What about you hold a paper towel? Does the water go through? Yes. One is permeable, lets things through. One does not. It runs off to the sides. Okay, well then let's talk about, do people ever do things like that? Hey, look at that. We're having a more, abstract conversation. Then take it to an egg and you say to yourself, I wonder, can things get through this eggshell? Because you know that it has to be porous, because we do know that air gets in for the little baby chick, right? But can liquids get in? I don't know. Okay, so you do a really cool experiment, which I won't go into, but it's out there. And you actually dissolve the eggshell. And yes, you want to get all science geeky on it? You can, because you can see the calcium bubbling right off and be like, look, that's what's on your teeth. You should brush your teeth. And, right? But the concept that you're teaching is that how we feel and think depends a lot on the circumstances in which we find ourselves. Guess what that can lead to? Vulnerability and compassion. Here's what happens when you take what becomes a naked egg, because the shell dissolves and all you have is essentially a see-through egg, a permeable membrane. Like if you're peeling an eggshell and there's that little membrane, that. Put one in again, how complicated do you want to get? Depends on the age of the people. You can have a hypotonic and hypertonic solution. Yes, you can. That would be water and molasses. And then weigh them beforehand, put them in there for a couple days, and you know what happens? One absolutely shrivels up. The other expands like a balloon. Now, yes, in my case, for my daughter, we got all technical and interesting and got all sciencey and osmosis and diffusion, but you don't have to. Here's what you see. That, depending upon the circumstances in which you find yourself, you grow or you shrivel. So when our kids, when your patients, when your students are feeling diminished, show them the egg. It's just the things that are around you. It's not you. The eggs were the same. Because the better that we are able to consider our own understanding and therefore the perspectives of others, the better we are going to be at those things that mattered in the beginning. Coping, problem solving, thriving. You know how the Egyptians got those gigundo pieces of rock, aka monolithic pieces of stone? Through thermodynamic shock, of course. Well, if you don't know what that is, it means changing the temperature really, really fast. And you know what you can do with marbles? Put them in the oven at a really low temperature for just a little while. And then you know what happens? When you put them in a bowl of ice water, instantly right out, they crack, but they don't shatter. The outside will stay intact. And you've just made what we call fried marbles. They are the most beautiful cracked inside. You can hang them up and make these beautiful, like prismatic sun catchers. You can make jewelry. But what have you taught? You've taught that if you are rigid, if you don't bend, and things change quickly, which they will, you break. And everything that shines through you is broken afterwards. talk about what it means to be on a team. Sorry, I skipped a thing. How do you start a team? People poppers. Talking about how to break through to other people. Guess what? Bubble wrap is the best thing ever invented. There's a whole book on bubble wrap. Yes, there is. And why? Here. Just things like this, because you can practice facts, and you can practice categorizing and all sorts of bingo by popping bubble wrap, and then you can talk about what happens when you break through to someone. There's that moment, and what does that feel like for you? How can you do that with another person? But if they really like math, or they really like science or foreign language, you can make that happen too. Ombre stuff is everywhere. Colors, yeah? Guess what happens if you go to Home Depot and you get some paint chips and some clothespins? That. You can start with the most basic visual skills of matching and matching it. Oops, look, I'm sorry, was that pincer work too? I don't know, I didn't show you that. But you're matching. Now, start with the youngest person or someone with a limited vocabulary. You're talking about the fact that things aren't black or white. They are, in fact, gradations. Talk about, I'm sorry, grammar, could you even get in here? Yeah, you could. Or it's just really cool, fun playing, making a rainbow, and you're talking about lighter, darker. You're talking about comparisons without being a superlative. It's not necessarily the worst day ever. Maybe it's like that day in the middle somewhere. Right? Same thing with little blocks. My son made those up by learning about ratios and painting them himself. This many dots to this many dots of color. He made gradations of color and then had to stack them on top of each other using little tweezers. And then you want to get really sophisticated? Give us an emotional vocabulary that we can use so that we can talk to our friends and have deep relationships, intimate relationships, marriages that are successful, and with one another. If blue in general means color, means safety, then why, or peaceful, why couldn't we talk about the gradations of adjectives and descriptors? There's no reason not to. There's no reason to not be able to take those concrete things from Home Depot for free and talk about words and emotions as having gradations. And, it's so hard on here. You got to teach people how to play dominoes in reverse. Kids love domino runs. Yeah? You know, the really cool, and there's a great game called Colorfall where you can make like an exploding volcano or the Statue of Liberty or basically anything to go with anybody's special interest out of a domino run. Who cares? Well, here's why. The world operates like this. People, life happens, do, think, feel. You teach that 3, you're good. We have like 4 minutes. I know I've got it up here. Yeah. Do, think, feel. Do, think, feel. For so many of us, we have wasted years that I call the wandering years in our lives, when we cannot figure out how it is that we can be such good people with such beautiful gifts that everyone tells us, and yet everything goes wrong. How can I be so smart but so stupid? Because we don't have goals. We need you to help us set out goals. How do you do it? You plan in reverse, and you build your domino run in reverse. What is the do you want to happen? You want to get a job interview? You want to get a job? You want to ask someone out on a date? Because remember, your only goals have to be things you can control, not getting that yes, but what you control. And then what has to happen before that? What is the feeling that has to happen, either in you or someone else, before that do happens? Well, maybe they have to feel that you are competent or interesting or funny. And before that, what has to happen? What do they have to think to have that feeling? Maybe they have to think that you have done some research or that you know something about what they like. And before that, now's your moment. What are you going to do now to make that thought and feeling and action happen? The concept that we have power over our own lives and we're not just leaves drifting, you have no idea how beautiful that is. That's good stuff. And knock those dominoes down, make a volcano, I don't care. It's fun. It's important. And well, quite frankly, it's awesome. And the last thing I want to teach you is this. I want to teach them to walk the plank. When you see kids, or I don't know, even us, making choices repeatedly that are getting us in trouble, this is what you do. You stand them on a chair in front of a stairlight with a plank, and you say, oops, sorry, taking the plank away. Can you get across without falling in? And your kid or student or patient will go, no. Then you say, okay, well, here's the decision you've been making generally. Turn it on its side. It's wibbly wobbly. Hold their hand. Can you get across safely? No. Okay, let's flatten it down. The next time you're in this situation and you have to make a decision, what would be a safe way to get from point A to point B that you like? They generate something. They walk across. Do it 3 times. Those are their planks across the hole that is anxiety or divot or problem. And guess what? Write it on 3 little popsicle sticks, and you've just given them traveling planks so that wherever they go, they have a tangible reminder of what to do. And that can be really, really fun, because when it comes down to it, this is about liberating your most authentic and inner awesome. Because staying weird, it's a good thing. You've probably heard normal's a setting on the dryer. Yeah, I don't even have a normal setting on my dryer. But nobody ever chooses a hero because he or she is so dang typical. Remember that. And remember the red shoes. Thanks, everybody. It's my pleasure.